The Mets take 2 out of 3 from the Detroit Tigers. Their rotation potentially in shambles, a fix on the way, what to do with Kodai Senga, what to do with Ryan Helsley. All of it the focus of another edition of the Bleav in the Mets pod. Chris Schubert, Jack McKessie back with you here once again on the show. Jack, it feels weird. Mets win 2 out of 3. They go to Detroit, play the best team in the American League, and score 22 runs over their first 2 games. You're supposed to be feeling good, yet I don't know if I feel good. I don't know how I feel, to be honest.
I feel very weird, Chris, especially having that result come off of a dropped series to the Miami Marlins. You lose 3 out of 4. Of course, the one you win is Jonah Tong's debut, which maybe we could talk about a little bit if we get the chance. But it's another one of those series where you win 2 nice games. Offense looks really good, but there's a lot of question marks about what the starting pitching is going to look like outside, really, of Nolan McLean.
Yeah, and I think that's the fair place to start, right? The rotation is the central conversation surrounding this team, and I'm finding a lot of the discourse right now funny. Some people showing that they have no clue what they're watching when it comes to what the Mets should do with their rotation the rest of the way. Let's tell everybody what we know, right? Nolan McLean's great. We know that. 4 starts. He's been excellent. This last start against Detroit, the great thing is he struggled early. Really the first bit of trouble that we've seen him face as a starter, and rebounded and finished nicely, retiring the last 14 batters that he faced. The other thing I know is Jonah Tong and Brandon Sproat are going to be given every opportunity to try to be the answers to this rotation.
Yes.
Other than that, though, I'm not certain about anything when it comes to the Mets rotation right now.
And that's the thing that is so weird is 4 weeks ago, I would have said, all right, all we know right now about the rotation is we have David Peterson as our game 1 starter in the playoffs. We have Clay Holmes probably going to start a game. And then things get a little dicier around game 3. Nolan McLean is still in Syracuse. So is Jonah Tong. Actually, I don't even know if he's in Syracuse at that point. So is Brandon Sproat. And we're kind of considering what the future is going to look like because the Mets are scuffling their way through a rough late July and early August. All of a sudden, the one permanent fact we have now is Nolan McLean, and I have a lot more questions about how is David Peterson going to look going forward because he had another rough start against the Marlins this time around. He's due to start Friday's game in Cincinnati. What is Clay Holmes' role on this team now? What is Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea's role? And now, as we're reaching September baseball, this team is looking a lot more like the one that we projected early in the season. The offense is incredible. They were one of the best offensive teams in baseball in August, but the pitching is a massive question mark, and the Mets are relying really heavily on these younger arms to carry them through not only September, but hopefully into October.
Well, Nolan McLean is their game 1 starter. If we were starting the postseason right now, I don't even think there's a question mark. And I know he's only made 4 starts, but I think we're all in agreement that stuff is the best stuff that the Mets system currently has. At least right now at the big league level. Maybe Tong's fastball is better and he'll ultimately be the better of the 3 starters, but right now it's Nolan McLean. And I think the place that I want to go is I want to talk about Kodai Senga and Sean Manaea. As we're recording this pod, there are conversations ongoing. That's the way it's being described to all of us between the Mets and Kodai Senga about what to do with him. Can't stay in the rotation. I think that's abundantly clear. Something is wrong. I don't know exactly what it is. I saw a statistic the other day that certainly points me in the direction of trying to tell what's wrong. Kodai Senga has the worst first pitch strike percentage out of any qualified starter in Major League Baseball, 55.4. It's basically a coin toss whether or not the first pitch that Kodai Senga throws to a batter will be a strike. You're not going to be able to survive as a starter if you're behind nearly half the time 1-0. It just sets everything off for you, especially when you add in that he's having command issues with really anything that isn't a forkball right now anyway. He's just not a starting caliber pitcher for the Mets right now. He can't work out of the pen. They're not going to make him a reliever at this stage of the season. So they're really left with 2 choices. With the expanded roster, they can keep him up and basically bury him and never use him. Or they could get him to agree to a minor league assignment and he can go down to Syracuse, go to a low pressure environment, not going to be asked to save Syracuse this season or win a championship and fix whatever's bothering him. And obviously not where I thought the season was going to go when Kodai Senga started the year as well as he did, but Kodai Senga is not rosterable right now. And if the Mets had to submit a playoff roster today, Kodai Senga shouldn't be on it. And I feel bad saying that because I like Kodai a lot, and I think when he's healthy and when everything is right, he's one of the best pitchers in the game. But he hasn't been that since the hamstring injury. He hasn't been that in a really long time. And this conversation also applies to Ryan Helsley. But Jack, this team can't be in the position right now of trying to fix things in September when they could pass the Padres. Like the Padres just got swept by the Orioles. Like there's a
Right.
chance to be the second wild card here. We can't be tinkering around with Kodai Senga and Ryan Helsley trying to figure it out in games that matter. And so I think Kodai needs to go down to the minors, and that's really like one step of a 3 or 4 step plan that I think the Mets need to institute at this point. But he's not rosterable right now for this team.
I mean, the problem with having that lack of first pitch strikes is not just the obvious of when you get down 1-0 in a count, you can't, you put yourself behind the 8 ball, but also like for him in particular with his repertoire, with a lot of movement on pitches, with the forkball, with the cutter, like hitters are not going to swing at pitches that are out of the zone if you're already behind in the count, right? Like you need to establish a pitcher's count for the ability to get hitters to try to chase later in counts when they're behind 1-1, 0-1, 0-2, and that's just not working for Senga. And the result has been a lot of earned runs since he's come back from the hamstring injury. I think it's pretty clear that it's just something mechanically is off. And Chris, to your point, like he is not a rosterable starter in this rotation right now. But the good news is this really speaks to how good the Mets farm system has been at developing this pitching talent. They have so many reinforcements that they are able to institute this very aggressive strategy of promoting every single starting pitching prospect that they had at the top of the minor leagues in AAA. And now we're seeing within a span of 4 weeks, 5 weeks, all 3 of Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong, and Brandon Sproat joining this rotation. And I mean, the writing is on the wall for Senga. They already announced Sproat's coming up. They already announced he's going to pitch in Cincinnati and essentially taking Senga's spot in the rotation. So I kind of just am both appreciative of the David Stearns regime and the willingness to make big sweeping changes like this, being so aggressive with these younger guys, and also wistfully hoping that Kodai Senga is able to go back down to Syracuse, maybe take the offseason and rework up those mechanics and get back on track, because we have seen what he looks like when he is on, and it's an ace level pitcher. It's just he is not that right now.
Oh, and they're also making it really difficult for him to refuse that assignment, right? They're leaking, stuff's getting leaked to the media. I don't know if they're doing it on
Right.
purpose, but things getting leaked to the media. Sproat's debut on Sunday being announced. They're like making it really hard for him to be like, you know what? I want to stay up here, because if he stays up here and it makes them make another roster move for Sproat on Sunday, Mets fans are smart. They're going to figure out that Kodai refused the assignment, and that's going to turn the crowd and the fan base against Kodai Senga. Rightly or wrongly, it is going to turn the fan base against him if he refuses the assignment. And listen, that's his right. If he chooses to exercise that clause in his contract and not go to Syracuse, I'm not going to hold it against him. He absolutely has built that into his contract that he's allowed to do it. But I think the gamer, the competitor in Kodai Senga is going to want to get right, and he knows that he's not going to get an opportunity to do that for this team the rest of this season. And that's just half the battle, though, because there's the Sean Manaea issue as well with this rotation.
Yeah.
And there's a Clay Holmes issue as well. In the last start against Detroit, didn't make it through 5 innings. And I've been tweeting a lot about this because I find myself thinking a lot about what potential options the Mets have to fix this. And so I'll run this one by you, Jack, and you can tell me where I'm wrong here. But I think it's time to move Manaea to the bullpen, to move Clay Holmes to the bullpen, because you don't have an 8th inning guy. You just don't. Ryan Helsley's not that guy. You don't have Reed Garrett. Clay Holmes has been that guy before, so he can be it again. And you call up Tyler McGill. Look at me, back here again, just ready for Tyler McGill to save the Mets bacon. I swore that I was done with Tyler McGill, but here I am again. And you go with a rotation of McLean, Tong, Sproat, Peterson, McGill. You have Manaea and Holmes move to the bullpen, and Holmes slides into the 8th inning spot. Manaea can piggyback off of another starter, maybe Peterson, maybe somebody else. And you can use him for multiple innings out of the pen because he's done it in the past. He did it in San Francisco for a little bit before he came to the Mets. And you're deeper in your bullpen. You feel a little bit more confident about getting the ball to Edwin Diaz there in the 9th. And I think the rotation is in in better shape. If you wanted to keep Minaya in there and use McGill as a reliever, I wouldn't hate that either. I still think McGill profiles better as a reliever anyway. But that's what I think this team needs to do, and they need to do it kind of aggressively.
I like the idea. I have a lot of thoughts about this, and it's first and foremost, Clay Holmes moving back into the bullpen. I don't know what the Mets are going to think about that in terms of his development. I guess I should back up first and say, thinking about it from a broad perspective, that solves a lot of the issues that the Mets seem to be having. I think for Holmes right now, it's pretty easy to point to the issue being his innings count is way above anything he's ever pitched in his career. He's kind of hitting a wall. He's not able to go as deep into games. You can see him actively hitting a wall in mid-game. And then I think the same is true for Minaya, although instead of the innings pitch being the issue, it's maybe the loose bodies in his elbow. He's, I think, maybe pitching through some discomfort. And by limiting the amount of innings that you're expecting from them by moving both of them to the bullpen, you're solving kind of both of those issues where give us all you've got for Minaya, maybe 2 or 3 innings as a bulk guy. For Clay Holmes, it's just 1 inning as a setup guy. But let's get the maximum value we can out of you based on how you're pitching right now. I just don't know how the Mets feel about kind of cutting off Holmes' development as a starter and moving him back into a bullpen role and kind of hitting his confidence or changing how his preparation works for games, etc. And then same thing for Sean Manaea, right? Because he's a guy that the Mets signed in the offseason with the expectation that he was going to be the ace-level pitcher he was at the end of last season. And kind of sending him back to what was going on, like you said, in San Francisco, where he's just kind of coming out of the bullpen, and then we don't really know what to expect from him going into 2026.
I agree that if this was April, this idea is foolish. This idea is stupid. It makes zero sense. It helps absolutely nobody. But the Mets right now have 20-something games left in the season. They're trying to get into the playoffs. And let's face it, I don't think Clay Holmes or Sean Manaea are going to start games for this team in the postseason. And so you have to find a different role for them. And the reason why Kodai Senga is going to get sent to the minors is he can't provide the role that Clay Holmes and Sean Manaea can provide to this bullpen. And honestly, Clay Holmes' development as a starter kind of has to go out the window right now with 2 months left in the season, the rest of September, and then hopefully a deep run in October. You need to do what is in the best interest of this team, and you don't have an 8th inning guy right now. Yeah. You don't have a long man in that pen. You don't have the piggyback option. I mean, I'm watching people from ESPN today tell me that Kodai Senga is going to start a game in the postseason, and Sean Manaea should be the piggyback.
Bad news for those people.
As if that's a legitimate strategy that the Mets should deploy for of a game 3 of a wild card series with the season on the line. We're starting Kodai Senga and then Sean Manaea is backing him up. Like, yeah, it's dire straits right now for this team with their rotation. I mean, do you think David Stearns wanted to call up Sproat, Tong, and McLean and say, hey guys, save the season, like go win a championship? Like, no, this is not the ideal situation that anybody wants to be in. But you have to look at the talent level of what the Mets have and deploy these guys in what is the best situation for them to help this team. And to me, McLean is best as a starter, Tong is best as a starter, Sproat is best as a starter, and they're starting him on Sunday, so that means they're not thinking about anything like a bullpen role in the postseason.
Right.
And David Peterson has a 7.5 ERA over his last 5 starts, so I'm not giving him anything right now. Nothing is guaranteed for him. This is performance-based, turn by turn. We'll see how Jonah Tong does in his next start. We'll see how Brandon Sproat does in his debut. Nolan McLean making it difficult on everybody to be able to live up to those expectations. But this is not the situation the Mets... I shouldn't say that this isn't the situation that the Mets wanted to be in, because David Stearns told us that if they missed at the deadline with starters, they were always going to consider this plan. Yes. I just don't think they anticipated doing it all 3 within like 21 days of each other. Like, right. I just don't think that was the way they wanted to deploy this. I think they figured maybe McLean, maybe Sproat, like maybe one of them, perhaps 2 of them. I don't think they envisioned a world where they called up all 3, but that makes me even more strong in my belief that they'll move Clay Holmes to the bullpen if they think it's the best thing for the team, because they just called up 3 kids to save their season in September. Like, they're pulling every ripcord possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, because David Stearns has shown nothing besides aggression in terms of figuring out this pitching situation. Like, he's very quick to pull the trigger on moving Frankie Montas to the bullpen or sending him to the IL or calling up these 3 young pitching phenoms, because Nolan McLean has torn it up in AAA all year. Jonah Tong had 2 incredible AAA starts after tearing it up in AA all year. And Brandon Sproat is coming off of, I'm looking right now, 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs in his last start for Syracuse. And it's like, all right, we're getting less than 4 innings from Sean Manaea sometimes, less than 4 from Kodai Senga a lot of the time, less than 5 from Clay Holmes in his most recent start. Something needs to change. Manaea and Holmes, like you said, can still contribute. We'll look at last year with how David Peterson contributed not only in the playoffs, but down the stretch, like coming out of the bullpen and winning games in Milwaukee that were huge.
He saved Game 3. He has the save in Game 3. He's the closer of record for Game 3.
Yes, and so like stuff like that, like you can envision how that will play later in the season because they've done this just last year. But I mean, if Jonah Tong is able to build on his first start, I think it was a tough situation with 19 runs in that game and sitting on the bench for like 30 minutes at a time between innings to start his career. Also facing the team with the highest contact rate in MLB. I don't think his stuff played super well there. So if he can build off of that and have a better start in Cincinnati, if Brandon Sproat can come up and live up to kind of the same standard that Nolan McLean and Tong have already set before him, like this, it looks like a genius move by Stearns to not make any starter move or moves for a start at the deadline, because it turns out these reinforcements from the farm system are actually as good as advertised.
Well, and right now, Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong have both been everything the Mets have needed them to be. So it's not like they missed on somebody as a starter to go to these guys and it's not working out, right?
Exactly.
Like you said. And to a larger point, like, you have to be this aggressive with your starters and your prospects with an offense that's playing this well. And so I want to talk more about that. I want to talk about Ryan Helsley, and we want to get you ready for the Red Series. This episode of Bleav in Mets brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everybody vulnerable. Data brokers, they make a profit off of your data. It is a commodity. Anybody on the web can buy your private details, can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. But now you can protect your privacy with Delete Me. Your name, contact info, social security number, home address, even information about your family members could all be compiled by data brokers and sold online. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for Bleav in Mets listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting HIT to 64,000. The only way to get 20% off is to text HIT to 64,000. That's HIT, H-I-T, to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. The offense, excellent as of late for the New York Mets, Jack. Best offense in baseball since October 1st. Whatever metric you want to look at. WRC+, OPS+. Average, I think they're second. They're second in home runs. They're first in on-base percentage, first in slugging. This is the offense that David Stearns and the Mets front office thought that they were building in the offseason. This is an offense that can carry this team to a championship. This is the offense, as you mentioned earlier in the show, is how we thought this season was going to go. Juan Soto was going to be great. Pete Alonso was going to be great. Francisco Lindor was going to be great. All these guys were going to be great. Now we're getting to see it every single night. They scored 22 runs in the first 2 games of this series. They scored 19 runs in that game for Jonah Tong, the most runs they've ever scored in a home game. They hit the most home runs in a calendar month last August. This is right now. Forget about earlier of the year. Right now, this is the best offense in the sport.
Yeah. I mean, Chris, I think we need to start having a conversation or promoting a narrative that Juan Soto is starting to play his way into the MVP conversation with the August that he's having. And the most important part of the season is right now. It's late August. It's September. It's playing down the stretch when your team is on the brink of the playoff bubble. You got to play well to get in. And if you play poorly, you're out. And Juan Soto has been unbelievable so far not this month, but yes, but also in August, where he had a WRC plus of 182. His OPS was 1,009. His average was 277. He was slugging home runs left and right. He's hitting with runners on base, runners in scoring position. At one point, he had 7 straight hits with runners in scoring position, which was like the second highest streak in baseball this year behind Trey Turner, who just leads the league in hits to begin with. And outside of Juan Soto, it's the whole team right now, right? Because I'm looking at stats right now. Mets hitters by WRC plus over the last 30 days. The only Mets hitter below 130 WRC plus in the month of August is Cedric Mullins, which I think is very ironic. But like Luis Torrens is hitting home runs. Juan Soto, Pete Alonso is hitting home runs sometimes. Starling Marte is getting clutch hits. Like it's all up and down the roster. Tyrone Taylor, who we said was a defensive player for the Mets, has the second highest WRC plus for the Mets in the month of May with a 208 behind Juan Soto's 220. It's just unbelievable.
And it makes his injury like even that much more gutting because how great he is defensively.
It's the same as Francisco Alvarez. It's like you as soon as you get hot, that's when the
right.
crappy injuries come around and just nip it in the bud.
And it's just brutal because we knew he was going to play a lot because of his defense. And so if he provided anything of offensive value to you, it's like a surplus. Like it's just a bonus. And he wasn't just a little bit of offensive value. It was a lot of offensive value in the bottom part of that lineup. I pulled the numbers just to kind of laugh at ourselves. Remember when I went on that rant earlier on in the season about how bad the Mets were with runners in scoring position?
I do.
They're third in the sport now with a 120 WRC plus with runners in scoring position. That's how good they've been over the last month.
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch, and the lineup looks so much deeper than it did earlier in the season. And I think a lot of that, I haven't even mentioned like Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty and the recent months that they've been having, because when you have those two players a little bit further down in the lineup, you know, we talked about the Fab Four ad nauseum at this point with Lindor, Soto, Alonso, and Nimmo. Everyone else is starting to turn a corner and hit, and like McNeil, Luis Torrens, I mentioned, Mark Vientos, like the lineup looks so much scarier when the bottom part of the lineup is as capable of setting up the top part of the lineup as the top is as setting up the bottom.
Well, you just watch the games and you just now kind of have this feeling like, oh, they're just going to come through with a hit here. And you're actually surprised when they don't. Like that's how good they've been over the last month, is that you're just now expecting them to have those big moments. And it's everybody. You can talk about every single player having a big moment. I mean, Luis Torrens hits a 3-run homer every single time he leaves the ballpark. Like it is uncanny, his ability to hit 3-run home runs. Juan Soto finally hit a home run with more than one person on base, two people on base this year with that grand slam. And he is certainly taking over this team and is putting himself firmly in the MVP conversation. And this is why you have to get aggressive with your starters. This is why you have to get aggressive with Carlos Mendoza. Ryan Helsley cannot see a game in which the Mets are within 2 runs on either side. Like, just cannot happen. And we'll use that as the launching off point. Like, this has been an absolutely horrific trade for the New York Mets, and they deserve to be, criticized for how this move has turned out. But they just need to do what's right by the team, and he just cannot be in high leverage situations. We are past the point of trying to figure this out, and we've got to get him right. No, like it's September 4th as we're recording this. There's no getting him right. He's broken. He's relegated to the Ryan Stanek low leverage. We're up 15 runs, and he comes into the game then, and he's not touching a 1-run game on either side. He's not touching a tie game. Like he's not in the game in a tough spot, and that's why I suggested the Clay Holmes move earlier in the show, because with Reed Garrett out, Oscar Brazoban sidelined, I don't know how you're getting it to Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz is going to be the 9th inning guy, or in the postseason, first guy out of the pen in a tough spot, right? Well, who's the guys after that? Gregory Soto, it's been very up and down lately, and I'm just not there on the trust tree with him. Brooks Raley, I trust him. He's moving up the trust tree in a big way, right? Okay, that's a second guy. Tyler Rogers, it was great when he first got here. He's hit some speed bumps his last couple outings. So it's like, you need that third guy. Why not it be a guy who has been a former closer, has been a former setup man, been there, done that, has done it in the postseason, and can slot in very nicely, and you lengthen your bullpen?
I'm with you. And I'm with you, especially that it can't be Ryan Helsley right now, because he has said, since we last recorded, like officially come out and said, yeah, I'm tipping my pitches. It is glaring and obvious. And my big thing with that, Chris,
you were very hot about this. You were very hot about this.
Why did he say exactly what he's doing when he's tipping his pitches? Why did he mention, oh yeah, I'm holding my glove higher up when I'm throwing the fastball than I do when I'm throwing the slider? And that's what's so obvious, and pitchers or hitters are picking up on it, and that's why their at-bats are so comfortable. Why are you saying that to a journalist? Because now every team in baseball that you're facing for the rest of the year, maybe it was only the Phillies that have picked it up, or the Marlins. Every team now knows that when you're on the mound, I'm looking for this or this.
You can say it, but it better be fixed then. Like, you can talk about it, but you better be damn sure that you fixed the problem.
And I think, like, maybe he has fixed it. The results have not been there, certainly, and I think part of that is because it's just now so mental in that he's thinking too hard about where he's putting his hands or something, because his command was just awful in that Tigers game, in the final game of the series.
And I don't know what he's doing in that game. Like, I just don't, that's not the spot to put him in right now.
It didn't make any sense to me either, especially with how well the pitching did in the second game of the series, especially with the off day today. I just don't understand why Helsley is the option in that situation. So I'm with you. Like he can't be a part of this bullpen right now. And it looks like Ryan Stanek, not just this year in cleanup situations, but last year during the regular season before he joined the trust tree in the postseason. He looks like Phil Maton in the postseason after a decent regular season. You can't use him in any situation where the game is close.
No, and I just don't understand why there is this. Oh, no, I understand why. It's because they don't have another setup man that they believe in or trust right now. I get why Carlos Mendoza is trying to get Ryan Helsley into that spot because they just don't have a pathway to get there every single night.
And in theory, like, he is a good pitcher. Like, he had a productive season before he joined the Mets, and all of a sudden the tipping pitches issue has come up. And, like, if they can fix him, massive if, he should be a good setup man with his 100-mile-an-hour fastball and dirty slider, but nothing is working right now. And I don't think that if is going to be answered with they can fix him.
And September is not a month for fixing.
I agree. That's goes back to our Kodai Senga conversation, right? Like, the tweaks, whatever he's been trying to do since coming back before the All-Star break, have not worked. His hamstring is still creating mechanical issues. That's why they need to send him down to AAA and figure out what's going on for next season. Same thing with Helsley in the bullpen.
Yeah, I just can't see a world where this gets fixed, and I'm not putting him anywhere close to medium or high leverage situations to try and work it out. It's just can't do it. I mean, it sucks. It was a trade that we all loved. I loved what they gave up to get him. Like, it made sense. A closer who has all sorts of experience, and for whatever reason he got here, and I don't know if it's playing in New York, not being the closer anymore, the tipping issue, all of it has created this mental soup for Ryan Helsley every single night out there. Let me tell you right now, though, I don't want to hear Hell's bells when he comes in the next time at Citi Field.
I don't think they can do it.
Like, he needs to go to somebody in the Mets brass and say, listen, you can play the music, but I don't need the light show. Like, I'll just have a normal walk in like everybody else does.
They certainly can't do the light show.
Like, you got to read the room.
We're at the point right now, his ERA is above an 11, Chris, which is not good. But we're at the point, like, he is going to enter a game, and they're going to need to turn up the volume because the boos are going to be so loud for their own pitcher entering the game.
My bar for light shows is a 5 ERA. You're more than double that. You're not getting a light show. Like, I'm just sorry.
I think the bar should be lower than that. I think it should be like 3.
Fine.
For a setup man, a former closer, you got to be real good to have a light show.
An 11 ERA doesn't get the light show. Okay?
Certainly not.
You're not happening. Let's close by talking about this series against Cincinnati. It's a very important series because of the teams and their placement in the standings, but it's also a important series and a fun series in my mind because this offense going to Great American Ballpark against a Reds pitching staff, like, there's some fun, intriguing matchups. And oh, by the way it sets up, you have David Peterson against Andrew Abbott in the opener on Friday. You have Jonah Tong against Brady Singer on Saturday. But Sunday, get your popcorn, get your snacks. I know it's week 1 of the NFL season, but you're going to want to get everything ready. Brandon Sproat, Hunter Green.
That is going to be an electric game as far as pitching matchups go.
And let's talk about Sproat a little bit. 6-pitch pitcher. There's a 4-seam, a sinker, a sweeper, a slider, a curve, and a changeup. So he's got all the tools in the toolbox. He has really worked on the command of his curveball and his changeup as of late. And he can dial it up 96, 97 with the fastball, and generates a ton of ground balls, trying to generate more whiffs, but going to be more of a ground ball type pitcher. And this is the top prospect, according to Fangraphs, in the Mets system. So he's rated higher than Jonah Tong and Nolan McLean. According to Fangraphs, it's Sproat, Tong, McLean. So if you base it on that, this is the best pitching prospect that the Mets have, and he's the one debuting last.
It's really exciting because he's almost like been the 2024 Sean Manaea of the Mets minor leagues, where his beginning of the season was a little rough. He had a 6.02 ERA through May 31st, and then he's said it multiple times in interviews. He had this moment in June where he realized, I just need to let my fastball rip because I can throw pretty hard, upper 90s sinker, high 90s 4-seam fastball. I need to just let that speak for itself and get the results that I want. Since early June, he's 6-2, 3.13 ERA, and a 189 batting average against, which is pretty darn good. And that's also including his brief stint as a bulk guy out of the bullpen when he gave up however many runs it was in a recent outing.
Offense, stay hot, attack that ballpark, leave the yard a bunch, Exciting to see the young starting pitching for this Mets team, and just go take care of business. This is another competitive team that you're facing. You've been really good against good teams this year. Go to Cincinnati, take 2 out of 3, and you're feeling good about yourself, right? You take 2 out of 3. The Reds don't gain any ground on you. You actually gain a game on them, and you're going to be feeling good about the way things set up for next week. We will be back, I should say, to recap it all. Brendan Sproat's debut, Jonah Tong's second start, some excitement around this club right now. On Monday, we will break it all down for you. We'll know the fate of Kodai Senga the next time that we have a conversation. If you want to watch the program, just check out the YouTube channel, Jack McKessie, McKessy. You can catch the show over there. If you're listening to us in the podcast feed, please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. Share the show with a friend. It's the best thing you can do to help us out. So if you're enjoying what you're listening to, please share it with a fellow Mets fan friend. We are back on Monday to break down this series with Cincinnati. As always, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.